feeling the burn, Aoife?
Oh, mate.
Okay, we're back again. It's a lovely day. Out of the wind, it's about 23, 24 degrees, which is just perfect for this part of the world. Of course, as you can probably tell, it is a little bit breezy, but that's rather pleasant. What are we on today? I'm actually, as you can probably tell from my attire, on a week off. But there's something I wanted to catch for you guys. We're back looking at whole crop. So you guys may well have seen from a few weeks ago the video I did with Ollie up at my girlfriend's family's place. They were making whole crop silage out of cereals. Now today we are back with Bainbridge Farms, who again you may have seen. We did a great video with them just down there, highlighting their great handling setup for the cattle. We talked about black baldies, which is that Hereford and Angus cross, and we talked about pelvic measuring with my colleague Jenny. And if you watch that video, you may remember Simon talking about the fact that they're organic, the fact that they grow all of the feed on farm. If you're not familiar with some of the challenges to organic livestock farming, organic feed is very expensive to buy in, and generally you want to be finishing your stock, which on an upland farm, which can be not as easy to grow really high quality forage, it can be quite difficult. So one of the ways these guys have found to overcome that challenge is to grow a whole crop. So it works in a rotation, and they've cut it all, but that's okay because you guys don't want to see forage harvesters or combines. This isn't an agricultural train spotting vlog. You've got grassmen if you want that sort of nonsense. I've just caught them in the nick of time, so they've got a bit left to pick up, as you can see. So what they do is this arable whole crop is part of a rotation. I think beforehand it has brassicas in it. Then they make the whole crop silage. And this particular whole crop, like I said in the last video, whole crop can really be anything, but this is barley and vetch. And now Simon's already got his excuses in. He said they should have been on with it possibly a couple of days earlier, but they were on holiday, which is important, work-life balance and the rest. It'll still be a really good feed. So barley, everyone knows what barley is. So that will provide some sort of starch. You can see the grains there. And of course the straw sort of aspect of it will be great, sort of fibre. And the vetch is a legume. So a legume is like a pea or a bean type family of plants. So you can see a bit of that here, if I can fetch a bit out. So you can see this is the vetch here. You can see the little pods just there. It's got quite nice sort of pea-like flowers as well when it's flowering, but obviously it's sort of seeded now. You see that there, the lovely pods. So as I said, some sort of machine will have been in, cut it, it's then been rowed up, and Michael, who will be back shortly no doubt, is just gathering up the last of it. It's going in a pit back down where we were doing the pelvic measuring beforehand. So yeah, it's a real challenge growing really high quality food for beef cattle and sheep, because the whole benefit of beef cattle and sheep is they can in general turn very low quality vegetation into energy, into milk, into beef, into lamb. It's just for those young animals, growing animals, they can require something with a bit more firepower. So this is a great way of doing it. Like I say, it's part of a rotation. I'm not an agronomist, but I did do GCSE history, the agricultural revolution. When you rotate crops, rotating them one year after the other, rather than growing a monoculture, you rest the soil in different ways. It's healthier for the soil, the environment, the wildlife, and it doesn't get exhausted. One thing I should have said about the vetch is it's a legume, so not only will it be decent protein for the livestock, but it fixes nitrogen. That means it takes nitrogen out of the air and deposits it in the soil. Now, again, really important, because organic farms, at least in this country, can't use any synthetic nitrogen-based fertilizers. Nitrogen is really important to help with green leafy growth. Vetch in that mix will be taking nitrogen out of the air and leaving it for the next crop to come in. And that leads me nicely onto the next crop to come in. This patch, this ground is undersown, which means, I'm not entirely sure what that means, apart from the fact that underneath this crop, which would have been around about here, there is a multi-species layer, multi-species mix put in. So there's grasses in that, there'll be clovers, no doubt, there'll be all sorts. Simon did a great piece for the Forager Magazine. I'll put a link to that in the description. Talks about that in a bit more detail, what the rotation is, what's in the mix. But all you want to know really is this: what's underneath is not just a straight ryegrass. There's all sorts of things in it. There's grass, clover, I imagine some plantain in it as well. So next year this will be a really good grassy field for, again, fattening those slightly more demanding classes of stock. Yeah, I think it seems to work for these guys. Bypasses the expense of buying in animal feed, bypasses the expense and the restriction on using synthetic fertilizers, and makes use of what's here, what's in the air, to make a really high quality feed for the cattle and sheep. So what we'll do next is we will go down and have a look at the pit where it's being ensiled. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm here just trying to stay out of the way. There's nothing too technical about this bit. You would have seen, again, in the last whole crop vlog, just trying to compact down, squeeze out the air from this whole crop silage, just like the last time. There's the plastic already in place, ready to wrap over. You can see behind me, I think that will be the grass, possibly grass and clover silage in this pit from several weeks ago. Anyway, that's the whole crop going in now, being pressed down, not much left to come in. What we'll do, unlike the last one, is we'll come back once the guys here have opened up the pit. I'll take some samples and we'll see what its feeding quality is going to be like. So bear with me, let's see how quickly I can make this happen. Okay, we're back. It's a little bit chillier, but it's still sunny. This clamp has been sealed for quite a while now, not been opened. We're just going to get some samples from it today. I thought I'd run you through that and then hopefully run you through the results. We've got Aoife here from the University of Bristol. You okay, Aoife? Yeah. You excited for some silage sampling?
Oh, so excited. So ready.
I'm sure you guys are too, so we will get cracking. There we go. Okay. Cool. We'll seal it up if you've got that tape. So we've got our 10 samples. In an ideal world, we would take a W up and across the clamp face. That's certainly what I would do if it was an open clamp, but because it's still sealed and the nets are still on, rather than take all the nets off, we've sort of just taken 10 different samples from as representative an area as we can. This is what we've got, all the different core samples. And what we'll do, got my clean container here, just give it a good mix. Being whole crop, like we talked about earlier in the video, there's lots of different things in here, and so we don't necessarily want to take one big lump of one type of plant, leaving out the others. We're just trying to keep it representative. That's why I'm sort of breaking it up. Then I'll sort of discard half. Mix it up again. Discard half again, and hopefully should be left with about 500 grams. I'll put this in a polythene bag, squeeze all the air out. That's very important, because if there's air in the bag, that can break down the carbohydrates and some of the other nutrients within the silage. That can give you a false reading. Then once it's sealed, signed, delivered, it'll get analysed at the lab, and next time I see you, we should be looking at the results. How's that for you, Aoife?
Great, yeah.
Good. Welcome back. It's about a week later. We've got the results. I've got them in front of me. This isn't a technical on silage analysis, but I thought you guys would be interested to know what we found. At some point, I will get a nutrition specialist on to talk us through the finer points of this sort of thing. Until then, this is just my very simple practitioner's view of what I look at when I'm looking at a silage analysis report. Again, you might be wondering why on earth a vet would do that. Sometimes it's following a year where people have had sticky issues with joint ill, navel ill, poor milk yield, watery mouth, mastitis, and we just want to rule out or in a nutritional component to that to make sure people don't have the same issues the following spring. Anyway, we'll launch into this. I'll pull the results up here. They come in several different sections. The first section is energy, and we can see that the D value is sitting at around about the low end of standard or the high end of normal. That's perfectly fine for suckler cows, especially dry suckler cows. Their demands are typically much lower than high yielding dairy cows. Same goes for ME. 9.9 is coming in as low here. For dry suckler cows, really an ME of 8 or 9 is probably okay until they get to the very late stages of pregnancy. If we had any concerns about that, we can always go in and blood sample some cows during that stage and find out if we need to supplement them with some form of energy. Ash is sitting at about 7.8%. Remember, that's an indicator of soil contamination. People's cutoffs are invariably different. Higher than 8, perhaps we might be running into issues such as clostridial disease and listeriosis, but I wouldn't say that's a particular concern for now. The starch is quite low, and that is probably why the ME is slightly below where you'd expect it. Moving on to intake, the dry matter is sitting at 25.2%. Any wetter, we might start to have some issues with intakes. If forages are very wet, cattle and sheep might struggle to get the intakes that they need. This is absolutely fine. pH sitting within normal range. If that pH 5.5 was grass silage, that might be slightly too high. Finally, ammonia nitrogen as percentage of total nitrogen is nice and low. That's exactly where we want it. High ammonia would really impair the palatability, how attractive this silage is to cattle, and therefore how much they eat. Protein. Now protein, this is where this silage stands out. In Northumberland, most of our guys are making grass silages, and most of that is very stemmy, mature stuff as they're going for bulk, not necessarily quality. It's not often I see many silages with crude proteins up in the teens, so this is very good. And you can see the two different categories of protein, ERDP and DUP, are both high, and that contributes to a very high crude protein. I wouldn't expect suckler cows, even in late gestation and early lactation, if they're eating enough of this, to require any supplemental protein. That means we're not having to buy in any protein. Protein's often very expensive. Historically, we would be talking about soya as well, with all the environmental baggage that brings. But really, any source of bought-in feed is an added cost. This is looking very good. And for growing cattle, this will be a really effective component of a finishing ration. So my very quick analysis of that: energy's looking pretty good, protein's looking excellent, and there's not really any major red flags that would make me worry about palatability or health risks with this silage. So good job done. This will be a great source of feed, even for the more demanding classes of stock like growing cattle and cattle in late gestation. That's it for this one. As ever, if you enjoyed it, like the video, leave me a comment, and if you haven't subscribed already, consider hitting the subscribe button and ringing the little bell next to it. Until next time, over and out.